Mic check 1 2 1 2. Am I loud and clear? I think I am. I'd like to start off with good morning. And welcome to JetBlue Flight 937, New York to Santiago in Dominican Republic, right? Yeah, so it's kind of a slow start. Slow start for me. I'm trying to finish up the last little bit of information here that I need to enter in. Preview 937. Of course I fucked that up. Of course I did. Alright, so it's 501 now. We're supposed to be pushing right now. Right now as we speak, we're supposed to be pushing. But we'll probably be a few minutes late. Trying to be on par with the real flight. I don't even know if that actually worked. Okay. So today's flight 937 is from JFK to STI. We're looking at a block time of 3 hours and 36 minutes. We have 116 passengers on today's flight. 3,828 pounds of cargo, which gives us 24,244 pound payload. For fuel, we're carrying about 23,493 pounds of fuel. We're actually ultimately climbing to flight level 380, but we're going to start off with a 360 and 1,400 nautical miles. Alright, so we're going to go to 360. I'll just put that in the MCP. We got, just about all the passengers over. We're just about ready to go. A little choppy here. Just a little choppy. Alright, we're not too far behind the schedule of the real plane. Alright, boarding completed. Close up all the doors. Finalize our numbers here. Alright, so just send that to the MCDU. Success. And then let's jump over to the takeoff page. We're taking off 13. Right. Sounds good. And let's calculate. Right. So we got a V speed of 153, no trim. 153, 150, 54. Copy. Make sure that took. Good. Good. All right. Good afternoon, pilot, or morning, whatever it is for you. Can't really remember right now. How are you? All right, APU bleed is on. Let's disconnect the ground power. Seatbelt signs on, beacon on. I think we're ready to go, actually. Ah, this is this flight. I was trying to keep up with the real one. Alright, cool. I did plan for 13 right. So good deal. Let's see. I want to push my tail to the left. Okay, we're pushing. I already got a... Kind of messed that up. Departure. Kennedy 5. Good now. It's broken, bro. I mean, you don't really have a choice in options. So I understand it's not that good, to be fair. Alright, let's get the fuel pumps on. Ignition start. Starting number 2. Come down here, hit some of these lights. Alright, brake set. Looks like inner is clockwise, outer is counterclockwise, I'm guessing. I don't remember how they taxi here at JFK. I mean, yeah, it's really hard to try to outfly bad dynamics. You can do it with some good programming, but I know when I first tried the thing, I loaded up and I just went to see how it would fly just by taking, just an everyday spin, just hopping on the runway and taking off. It tried to rotate at like 115 knots, which I guess the Neos do take off at slower speeds, but I don't know, man. And it kind of pitched up really bad. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not about to deal with this. All right, so 2 had a good start. Working on 1 now. I know you don't have any other option. That's what I'm saying. You don't like the other one that it came with? I think there's 2 options for you, right? All right, that's a good start on 1. Engine mode selected to normal. APU bleed is off. APU master is off. Auto brake max. Flaps are going to be 1. We're not using any trim. Right. Alright, so based on my guess, if I hit a hard right, I can take Bravo all the way around to Quebec. Would that really be shorter? I don't know. Then taking Alpha. But we ain't got nothing but time, right? Um, let's see what the real flight is doing right now. Before I start moving. Alright, they are live. Damn! They already have made it to... We're a couple steps behind them. So let's see if we can catch up. Alright. Brakes release. I guess I should be making calls. How many people are here? Would be my first question. Let's give it a second here. Kennedy 5. For me on this runway is basically just fly runway heading till ATC gives you some direction. Alright, you know what? You know what? Alright. And then what is Kennedy Tower? 119.1. Yeah, it's one of the more common ones for sure. Alright. There's like three A380s taking off in front of us. So I think we have a little bit of time. Think we have time. Yeah, but there's been a another one on flightsim.to for a while. It's not the fly-by-wire one. Is that one that's been out is not that great either. But people have been, I guess, getting ready for the new one. So they've been. Is it me or is it foggy? You know what? I kind of probably need to have this chart up in front of me. Because I can't see a thing.
The cabin is now secure for takeoff.
Okay. We got you. Okay. Bravo to Quebec, right? Kennedy traffic. JetBlue 937 taxiing Bravo to Quebec, runway 13 right, Kennedy traffic. Takeoff go around the entire time. That's horrible. It's actually very bad. We're on a bridge. Hey, JetBlue headquarters. Trying not to ride my brakes, but this thing accelerates rather quickly. Um, Let me go on. Trying. Am I even going the right way at this point? Yep, so far. Gatwick to Ibiza. I don't think I've ever been to Ibiza. Now that I think about it. Right. Alright, so my take is the real flight is actually in the air now. I could check on my phone. Barcelona, I've been there a bunch of times. Let's see, JBU 937. They left on time. Why was I logged out? Yeah, dang. It's showing 8,300 feet. So they're in the sky. I mean, realistically, there goes a Lufthansa 380 that just took off. An A3 Air France A350 right there. 3036 takeoff config okay. You know, we're making a right on Quebec, which is coming up here. I feel a lot better about this now. Quebec. What's this right here? That's November. I think this is the turn here, ain't it? And let's see. When in doubt, use the moving map. So I want to say it's this one. But this is the one I wanted anyway, so. No. When you're on VATSIM, I don't know if there is, now I think about it. But when you're on VATSIM, whatever airplane model that you put in, it'll make you look like that to other people. So you could see what everybody else is. You don't even need to have their airplane. It just makes you look like that. So there goes that other 380. Take it. Is that 380? Yeah, it is another 380. Taking off. Yeah, see, I don't even have any 380s, but probably after 2024 comes out. Do I have... Alright, good. I have Unicom on standby. Let's do a last check of the... not a last check of the overhead, but a quick check. I'll put my predictive wind shear on now. And turn my TCAS on now. Taxi's a little bit longer than I thought it would be. Keep that plane straight. Alright, so scattered at 2200, broken at 25,000. 15 degrees. You know, we're on Quebec, so it's a good call there. Alright, our turn is coming up here. JFK is a quiet place at 5 in the morning. Okay. Kennedy traffic, JetBlue 937, departing runway 13 right, Kennedy traffic. Alright, guys, let's just go for it. Okay, landing lights on, wing lights on, taxi lights on. Those are all good. Center pedestal looks good. Let's turn on. Power to 1.2 EPR. Takeoff, man flex, SRS, auto thrust blue. There's 100 knots. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Oh, there you go. How's that? Alright. So then we were supposed to do direct to ship. That's our turn. Yeah, I didn't realize the sound wasn't on. Yeah, I be trying to stay on top of that stuff, but sometimes I hit the sound button, slips my under from my radar, and I just be like, man. And you know, sometimes I can go a whole stream or damn near halfway through, and nobody has said, "Hey, the sound isn't working." Like, oops. It's definitely happened before. Start to extract the one setting of flaps that we have. Alright, so we've done the Kennedy 5 departure to the best of my ability. Whoa. Let's see, take off, direct ship. Exactly what I did. So yeah, isn't it like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that? Real world time? Alright, so let's switch over to Unicom. $9.26, so yeah. The other thing I need to do is, after takeoff checklist, disarm the speed brakes. My taxi light can come off. Turn down just a tad on the ND and the PFD. We'll be at 6,800, okay. Go ahead, what's that? And guys, if you haven't already, follow me on YouTube as well as Twitch. I'm ProPilot23K on either one. And just about any platform that I'm on, I'm ProPilot23K. Feel free to give me a like, subscribe, or a follow. I appreciate it. We're coming through 10,000, so landing lights off, wing lights off. I guess I can turn the seatbelt signs off too. Turn that cabin down. Lights down to 25. Alright, so next move. We hit the standard button at 18,000, and that'll be it for climb. We did have some climb restrictions, I think, based on weight. So let's take a look here at what the plane's gonna allow us to do. So right now our optimum is 360, but our max is 385. The flight plan, I believe, was calling for 380, sorry. Let me double check that just to be safe. 380, yeah, 380. So at Herc, oh no, it says initially climb 360. At Herc, 380. So let's go find Herc. Here's Herc. 380. And that's going to be a climb. And then it also says at Hobo 370. Hold on, where's Hobo? Hobo. There it is. So I'll climb at 380 just to come back down at... Oh no, I'm just gonna follow what it says. And that'll be a descent. And then... Chubby 380. Hold on, this thing got me going up and down, up and down. Look at this, hold on. And then that Stern. Is this Stern the next one? Let me see. No, Saucer. 370. Of course, I don't see Saucer. There it is. 370. That's the descent. And then the last one, which was Roderick 380. Let me see something here. A new transition altitude is coming up. Alright, so Roderick 370. Alright, that's what the flight plan is calling for. Why, I don't know. I mean, yes and no. If you use SimBrief, a lot of it is entered. You know, when you're learning, it's probably better for you to enter each one individually. But like, this flight is long as hell. It's a lot. So on your shorter flights, I always urge people to manually input them, because you get an idea of what buttons do what. You'll make your mistakes, and then you'll have to go back and fix it. And then I'm looking at the, yeah, this, let me show you this flight plan, how long it is. And I mean, realistically, it's not that bad, you see what I'm saying? But it also has a lot of airways in there. So in those airways, there's multiple fixes as well. So like ship Yankee 488 to web. That's 3 different things you gotta put in. But in the reality of it all, let's go down here and go to ship. Let's see. A lot of times it may not be. So yeah, ship was our first fix. There's Dodgers, Blue, Dumper, Icy, Orion, Gemin, Bear, Henrik, Webb. All those fixes were in that Y488. I mean, you don't have to make one for every flight, but I mean, especially if you're using that 737, I would, definitely would, because it'll take care of your passenger count, it'll take care of your weights, you'll know what weights to put in, you'll know what reserves to put in, if you have any at all. You just have a lot of your numbers there already, so you just need to put them in as opposed to kind of guessing what everything is. You keep avoiding flying that thing, you need to jump in it right now. That's the one you need to be flying. Because once you figure it out, you're going to be like, oh man, this thing is nice. Best airplane that... Let me see, what time is the sunrise in New York? 7:25. Oh yeah, we're missing that. Yeah. For this day and age, I still feel like the Boeing cockpits are still a little I don't want to say basic, but I do say basic, because there are a lot of things that you can, and I don't know about the newer planes, but for 737, they left a lot of things the way they are because of training purposes. I remember that was a big deal for Southwest. They wanted a plane that when the Max came out, they didn't really have to do too much training, and it would be familiar to the pilots, so they could just get it with a little bit of training. So that's why a lot of that stuff is still the same. One thing I would never understand is if I put into the FMC my arrival and all that stuff, why doesn't it not auto-tune the frequency? That's just stupid to me. So I had to go and put this frequency in as well. I'll never understand that. I would never understand it. So it's like you're still doing a lot of hands-on things in there, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but don't tell me I have automation, but then don't have automation. If I have automation, let me know I have automation, and I can work around that. Or if I don't have automation, you ain't got automation, bro. You gotta, it's like getting into a DC-9 or MD-80. You know you're gonna have to press every single button and do every single thing. I wouldn't expect any help from that airplane besides the basic autopilot functions and or navigation functions. Ooh, no clue, man. They better knew better. But you know what? Back then, from what I can remember, I think a lot of people got their pilot's license off of like they didn't really go to school. For a lot of them didn't back then. Not the way that we gotta go to school now. A lot of it was like, all right, come up here. I'll teach you as you go. Or like, I don't know if you're grandfathered in. Like they were grandfathered in because they were already doing the job. So by the time, they were really putting strict regulations on things, if you were already doing it, you kind of automatically would just walk in to the job. It's craziness, man. Because even now, I was looking at, what's it called, AMP, and I'm like, all the school I was having to be an aircraft mechanic and stuff, and then one of my friends is in the Navy. He didn't have no school whatsoever. Meanwhile, he's working on P8 Poseidons and stuff with no schooling. Just kind of grandfathered in. I'm like, how? It's crazy. Crazy world we live in. Or at least lived in. Right, so we're starting to head a little bit more southward now. The real flight is, what state is that? I couldn't tell you. They're at 35,000, I'll tell you that much. Oh, we're at 35,000. Holy! Okay. And climb-wise, we kind of caught up a little bit. But they're holding at 35. That's why we caught up to them. Hold on. I think they have all the opportunity in the world to climb. They're just not doing it. Cool beans. Are you ready to go all the way? I said, are you ready to go? Flight all buttoned up, doors closed, passengers seated. Ready to push? Good deal, good deal. I'm checking the Vastin radar now just to see what we have to deal with as far as radars. So far so good. Nobody's in front of us. We have no planes in front of us right now, and it is early, so nobody's doing any controlling. Silva Jonathan 777, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. How are you doing today? It's on VATI? I didn't even know it's on VATI. Can you send me the link to VATI? Is it like VATI.com? Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, I had no clue. Let me see what this is about. Okay, cool. This is actually very nice compared to what I've been using. Ah, and it puts the streamers on there. That's awesome. That is me. You see, I use VATS and Radar right now since Similar doesn't work anymore. But I think they're still trying to build that platform up. But I like the look of that eye. It's nice. And then it publishes the streamers like Similar used to. Is another nice touch to it too. That's awesome. It's definitely missing some things, but it's still fairly new, so I'm not really too hard on it. But I'm definitely gonna save that eye for sure. This is nice. I love this. Just as soon as it came up, I was like, ooh, I like the way it looks. Let me bookmark this. Oh, nice. Congratulations. You have a nice little setup here. Nice little setup. When I have some time, I'll really dig into it a little bit and see what it has to offer. This is pretty nice looking so far. Let's see, it says pre-alpha. So see, you're still in pre-alpha. Still a lot to be done. So what are your plans? Let me go like over to the European region and see. We can see all the planes. Do we get to see like the oh, let me hit controllers. Right, there's the controllers. So let's see. Yeah, that's pretty cool too, for sure. So far I see we can get controllers, but we don't get controller information. Is that correct? Oh, it's still bugged. Okay. Alright, this is a great start though. I'm not even gonna lie, I love the look of it. Are you gonna offer a what's it called, like a dark mode? So you have light mode and dark mode? It has? Okay. First option, the map controllers. Oh yeah, down there. Boom. Nice. So here's my next question, because I just noticed this. Is the picture that shows up with the airplane based off the registration, or is it just a random one? Okay, because I was like, that looks a lot like my airplane, but I didn't want to assume, because That's cool. Yeah, that's actually dope. So I saved it as a bookmark. It's up here with all my other essentials for flight simulation. Thank you for stopping in for sure, because it is a great addition, and I'm pretty sure once you build it up to be where you want it to be at, it'll be awesome. No charts yet, but they're coming. Cool. So is it gonna be like a thing where we could just go on a page, or do we have to log in and all that other stuff? No logins, okay. Guess if you're doing like the Patreon. Yes, sir. You have a great product there. For sure, for sure. Tools are great. The more tools we have, the better. Yes, sir. I appreciate you stopping in and sharing your work with us. It's amazing. Hope to see you next time. Have a good day. Alright, some of those constraints are coming up here. Let's see what we got. Perk. Dealing with supplying 380 perk. And a lot of up and downs here. Let's see, what is the real plane doing? We're still at 350. So maybe I'll just follow their lead. They're doing 495 on the ground. Alright, so this is a little bit. We don't have any controllers anyway, so we'll just go down to 350. We're definitely at 350 still. And let's just also go to flight radar. Taking off, okay. Have a safe rotation. Showing at 35. Message here, clear that out. Probably JBU ops or something like that. Alright, we're at 350. Real planes at 350, we'll hang out at 350. And just kind of feel it out and see what happens. That flight plan definitely had us up and down, up and down. Person me, what time? Let's go. It's 6 o'clock. You say the sun isn't rising yet? Nope. Santiago right now? It's wild. Making it far too easy. Alright, so I say we're set for now. We're burning about 5,000 per side. 5,000 total, sorry, 2,500 per side, which is normal. Predicted wind shear off. I'll show you where that's at. That is right here. So if you come down to the center, the bottom left, I'm flicking the switch right here. It's a system there to predict wind shear. You see me flicking the switch? Yes, no, maybe so. Hopefully you got that. Well, bottom right. Alright, I'm zoom in. Bottom right. Sorry, bottom left. Ooh, it's early. Bottom left, where your radar is, right? It says multi-scan, GCS. I have 3 dials there. There's a switch. It says PWS, predicted wind shear. That's the one. System 1 or 2, doesn't matter. It's one of the systems to be on. But then, if you also look again to the right of that, the actual switch is off or auto. Put it on auto. Because I think that system switch is from the radar. The radar that we don't have. The weather radar. Switches work with no system. Nav altimeter discrepancy. That means your altimeter on your pilot, your captain, and your co-pilot side is not the same. So if it says standard, like right here, it says standard for mine. Go over to the co-pilot side. Isn't there a button to take me over there? I can zoom out. So both of these have to say the same thing. That's what I'm saying. Like if I change that one, I have to set to the same thing. Zoom setting. Controls. So it's independent. Right? So if this one says 3047 and the one on the right says 3062. Sooner or later, it's going to come up and say that they're different. Let's give it a second here. There. So, let's always make sure they both say the same thing. You're welcome. So thereby North Carolina now, Wilmington, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They're like adjacent to that. Where am I at in relation to all that chaos? Fayetteville right here, I think. Yeah, okay, there's RDU, Raleigh Durham, but yeah, that's probably Fayetteville. Where the hell is Myrtle Beach? Because Fayetteville is in North Carolina, Myrtle Beach is in South, and I don't see it anywhere. Right there. Cool, it's always too far. Come on and come across. See, they're still a little ways ahead of us. Probably use this time to do something extracurricular, so let's see. I already created thumbnails. Overhead is good. Center pedestal is good. I don't think there's any radars in front of us that we have to worry about contacting or anything like that. Nope. So maybe I'll jump over onto YouTube and we'll find something to watch in the meantime. Any suggestions? Find something aviation related. Maybe we'll watch like a mentor pilot video. Those are always good. You just come out with a Bergen Air. Be the move. Alright, buddy, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate you as always. You as well. Talk to you later. Alright, yeah, we're gonna watch it. Figure out what's the best way to do this. Switch up this browser.
Nightmare. These pilots were trying to control their aircraft, but it just wouldn't do what they asked from it. Stay tuned. The weather was partly cloudy on the evening of the 6th of February 1996, when a group of German and Polish passengers were getting ready to fly back home after a lovely stay in the Dominican Republic. There was also some thunder rumbling down to the south, with occasional rain showers going over Gregario Luperón International Airport, but that was not what these passengers were paying attention to as the evening grew later and later. Instead, they were all waiting for news about when they were going to actually be able to depart. The Boeing 767, which had originally been assigned for this flight, had experienced some kind of technical issue and had therefore been grounded until some spare parts could arrive. There was no way of knowing how long that would take, meaning that it obviously couldn't be used for this flight. So the charter company, Alas Nacionales, were working hard to try and find a suitable replacement. Now at the time, Alas were working together with a Turkish company called Birgen Air, and when they were contacted, it turned out that they had another aircraft, a Boeing 757, which could potentially be used instead. The only issue was that this aircraft had been sitting on the ground for quite a while, 20 days according to the final report, so it needed to be prepared properly with catering, cleaning, etc. before it could be taken back into service. This would cause a further delay, which meant that the original crew who had been scheduled to perform this flight would no longer be able to do it due to duty hours, so a completely new crew would have to be called in. This also took a bit of time, since most of this new crew would have to be called in from their scheduled off days, but at around 22:15, the 3 pilots and most of the 10 cabin crew had finally reported to the airport.
And cabin crew.
The pilots started to immediately look through their flight plans and briefing data to see what they had ahead of them. The plan was that they would initially fly up to Gander in Canada and then fly onwards to Berlin-Schönefeld and finally to Frankfurt in Germany. Because this would be a very long duty, a third pilot had also been assigned to act as a relief pilot, and together they now looked at the weather and the NOTAMs for the planned 3 legs.
Going down,
Like I
well,
mentioned
we going
before,
down to
it was
Kansas.
raining on and off in Puerto Plana, and there was also some thunderstorm activity down to the south, but that shouldn't affect their northerly route. The weather for the rest of the flight looked okay, and so did the flight plan, high-level charts and NOTAMs, so they soon decided on the fuel and walked over to the cabin crew to start briefing them about what to expect. Now, it was likely in this briefing that they were informed that one of the cabin crew had not arrived yet and would be coming in about 1 hour's time. There wasn't much that they could do about that, so the pilots just continued to brief the crew about what they were expecting in terms of turbulence, weather and special requests, and after that they proceeded together out to the aircraft, which had now been brought forward from the storage parking stand. It was a gleaming-looking, 12-year-old Boeing 757-200, equipped with two RB211 535E4 engines, which had been leased to Virgin Air 3 years earlier in 1993. Like I mentioned before, it had been sitting on the ground for the last few weeks, and during that time an engine test had been carried out in the form of a ground run, which had been fully successful. But after that test had been completed, there was no indication in the tech log that the covers protecting the engines and the pitot tubes had been fitted, nor if they had been installed in the first place. So what does that mean then? Well, if an aircraft is going to be staying on the ground for more than a few hours without supervision, it's a good idea to try and cover any openings or parts of the aircraft where dust, insects, birds and other wildlife could potentially get in. The engines are therefore normally covered, but another system which is hugely sensitive to any kind of blockage is something known as the pitostatic system. You see, it's super important for us pilots to always know what our indicated airspeed is, as well as our altitude of course, and the most reliable way that we have to keep track of these parameters is by measuring certain pressure differences. Down on the ground, the static air pressure is around 1013 hectopascals, but as we climb, that pressure will increase in an almost linear way, at least for the first couple of kilometers. This means that if we can continuously measure that pressure outside of the aircraft, we can, with the help of a quite simple mathematical model, calculate how high up we are at any given time. Now, there are some corrections that has to be made to get this really accurate, but for the purpose of this explanation, they are very small. But when it comes to measuring the indicated airspeed, things becomes a little bit more complicated. First, let me address one of the most common misconceptions about airspeed. When most people hear the word speed, they immediately picture an object that is moving in relation to another object. In most cases, the only speed we get in contact with is the speed relative to the ground, since that's what's important when we're out on a bike, motorcycle or car. We use that speed information to calculate how quickly we can get from one place to another or how much fines we need to pay if the police stops us. But airspeed is something slightly different. Airspeed has less to do with getting from A to B, and much more to do with how much air is actually flowing over the aircraft's wings and control surfaces, which is what actually keeps an aircraft flying, making it one of the single most important parameters for us pilots to know.
Everyone who hates ads will be using this Chrome extension by 2025. I feel like we just want a Google cheat code. It's a Chrome extension called Pi that lets you either block ads or get paid to see them. But look what happens when I enable Pi. I don't know about you, but that was the most satisfying thing I've seen all week. I've never seen an ad blocker that pays you to watch ads. That's why Pi is so cool. It allows you to capitalize on ads that are capitalizing on you. I'm not saying you have to do this, but it's almost like bribing you. It doesn't even take 5 minutes to install. It's 100% free, and you can earn money.
Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Or is that a jack-o'-lantern made out of pizza? That's something I want to carve up. Sink your claws into the jack-o'-lantern pizza from Papa John.
Of course, we do also want to know how quickly we will get from A to B, and this is derived by calculating our ground speed. But that speed, even though it is, of course, somewhat connected to the airspeed, can be wildly different from the indicated airspeed. Just to illustrate this, picture a small aircraft that's flying with a constant speed of 100 knots. It is heading straight into a storm with an average opposite wind speed also of 100 knots. In the cockpit of that aircraft, the pilot will see his airspeed being constant at 100 knots, but if he looks down towards the ground, the aircraft will be standing completely still, appearing to hover off the ground as his ground speed is effectively zero. This doesn't in any way mean that the aircraft is in any danger, since the air needed to keep it flying is still there, flowing over its wings. It's just not getting it anywhere. In the same way is also true for those articles that you sometimes see about aircraft that are crossing the Atlantic at record speeds. They are not overspeeding in any way. Instead, they are flying the same indicated airspeed as they always do, but with a lot of tailwind. So with this in mind, we can get back to the pitot-static system needed for showing us this indicated airspeed. Like I mentioned before, we do this by measuring air pressure, but in a different way than we measure the altitude. The pressure used for the altitude is measured by static boards situated on both sides of the aircraft, but since the speed needs to capture the dynamic pressure, this is done with the help of something known as pitot tubes or pitot probes, which are these pistol-looking things that are protruding normally on each side of the cockpit and on the fin in the back. When the aircraft starts moving, the air will move in through a hole in the front of these tubes, which is where the total pressure will be measured. That value will then be fed into, in the case of larger aircraft like the Boeing 757, an air data computer, which will convert it into digital signals and subtract the static background pressure. This computer will then use signals from the aircraft's angle of attack sensors, since the pressure might change depending on which angle the aircraft is flying at, as well as the outside air temperature. And once all of those corrections are made, the signals will be fed to the pilot's primary flight display, which will show the correct speed and altitude to us pilots. Each pilot's display is connected to their own separate static and pitot probes, as well as their own air data computer, so the speeds are derived independently, and since this information is so critical, we also have a standby system, which is connected to yet another separate set of probes. In the case of the 757, the probes connected to this standby systems are not connected to a computer, but are instead the raw, uncorrected values from those probes. Now, those of you who are a little bit eagle-eyed will maybe see a weakness here. Those pitot probes only have one small hole in the front, so what happens if that hole gets blocked for some reason? Well, I will tell you all about that after this short message. If there is one thing to get back into service again, at brilliant.org/mentorpilot by clicking on the link here below or using this QR code. This will give you a free 30-day trial and an awesome 20% discount on the engines, and probe covers had likely not been installed during parts or even this entire duration. That would have exposed the various probes of the aircraft to elements and insects, and there was one insect in particular which posed a particularly big threat here, the mud dauber wasp. This insect was active in the Dominican Republic at the time, and its nesting habits included building a single-cell nest inside of small holes or openings using, as its name suggests, mud. Now, we don't know if this is what happened in this case, but the mud wasp had caused problems with pitot tubes in other cases, which I explained actually in this video. Anyway, the pilots who were going to operate this flight were likely not aware of this particular threat and wouldn't have known if the covers had been installed or not. Checking the pitot probes does form part of the pre-flight inspection, but the probes are mounted so high up that we can only really check that they are not damaged or doesn't look damaged. Actually checking inside of them would require a set of very tall steps and likely a trained engineer. Now, there were specific maintenance procedures for testing the system, and according to Boeing, those tests were recommended before flight if an aircraft had been grounded for an extended amount of time, but in this case, this had not been done. As the pilots entered the cockpit, they decided that the captain was going to be pilot flying the first flight, and the first officer would therefore be operating as pilot monitor. The relief pilot was not formally on duty yet, but he would be sitting on the jump seat in the cockpit during the takeoff anyway.
Hey guys, today we're going to learn how to add this scrolling animation to your website.
So, who were these pilots then? Well, the captain was 62 years old and a Turkish citizen. He was very experienced, with close to 25,000 hours of total time, of which 1,875 had been flown on the Boeing 757. And record shows that he had not flown for the previous 10 days before the flight. Now, we don't know much about his previous experience, training records, except that Virgin Air was using external training centers in the US to train their crews. At the time, it had not yet been mandated to do CRM training in Turkey, and the crews had therefore not gone through this particular training. The first officer was also Turkish and 34 years old. He had amassed about 3,500 hours of total time, but only 71 of those had been flown on the Boeing 757, meaning that he was basically brand new on the type. The relief captain was 51 years old and also from Turkey, and he had about 15,000 hours and was also very new on the 757 with only 121 hours on it. But since the final report was not very detailed, we don't know if these pilots had actually more experience on the very similar Boeing 767 that Bergen Air also used, and which shared the same type rating as the 757. Anyway, as soon as the crew entered the aircraft, the cabin crew started going through security checks as the captain started preparing the cockpit for departure. The first officer went outside to do the walk around, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary when he did that. Soon, the last remaining cabin crew member also arrived, which meant that the passengers could finally start boarding, and it's safe to assume that most of them would have felt quite tired at this point, but likely very happy to finally be on their way. Now, we don't know much of the discussions that happened in the cockpit during the final parts of the cockpit preparation, because the final report only included events after the takeoff roll had been started. But we do know that the aircraft was within weight and balance limitations, and that the performance and V-speed calculations were all correctly done. Once the boarding was complete, there were 176 passengers and 13 crew members on board, and the cabin crew closed the doors and reported to the captain that they were now ready for departure. So, at around 20 minutes past 11, the first officer requested startup clearance, and only minutes later the majestic Boeing 757 started taxiing out for takeoff from runway 08. It was almost completely dark at this point, with the moon only occasionally peeking out behind the clouds at 7,000 feet. Light rain was falling, and the winds were coming from an east-southeasterly direction at 10 knots. A very pleasant night for flying, in other words. The pilots completed their before takeoff checks, and everything appeared completely normal. There were no warnings of any kind, and the pilots were likely just completing their normal procedures and chatting about the departure that they were just about to fly. At around 23:42 and 11 seconds, the aircraft had lined up on the runway, and the air traffic controller cleared Bergen Air Flight 301 for takeoff. The captain pressed the toggle buttons and then made sure that the outer throttle correctly started moving the thrust levers forward into the selected takeoff thrust. He then called EPR select, and as the engines roared into action, the first officer responded EPR power set, as the captain started focusing his attention outside, just as he would have done thousands of times before. Now, before we get into the accident sequence here, it's important to explain a few things regarding standard operating procedures during the takeoff roll. In most airlines, it's the captain who takes the decision to either continue or reject the takeoff based on whatever information they have at the moment, and it is therefore super important for the other crew members to clearly speak up if they notice anything unusual. The takeoff roll is divided into two defined phases, the low and the high speed regime, and the divider between those two is normally a speed which varies between 80 and 100 knots depending on aircraft type. During the low speed regime, the aircraft has not yet built up much kinetic energy and also haven't used up much runway, meaning that it's considered very safe to reject the takeoff at those speeds. Because of that, we are taught to reject for basically any warning, unusual noise or vibrations in this regime, but once we pass into the high-speed part of the takeoff, that becomes a bit trickier. At that point, the aircraft will have used up more runway and is also traveling at a significantly higher speed, therefore requiring more braking distance to stop. So once we have passed this point, which is 80 knots in the Boeing 757, we only really reject for engine failure, fire, predicted wind shear warning, blocked runway, or the aircraft unsafe or unable to fly. Now, it is important to point out that the aircraft can safely reject all the way up until we reach the decision speed of V1, but it's been found that it's much safer in general to take any minor issues into the air and then just fly, circuit back home and land again with the whole runway available if needed, than doing a high-speed rejected takeoff or anything outside of that list that I just said. But the thing that I want you to think about here is the phrase unable or unsafe to fly. All the other scenarios, engine failure, fire, predicted wind shear warning or blocked runway, are very clear-cut and requires minimum decision-making by the captain. But unsafe or unable to fly requires a subjective decision which can be based on many different parameters. This is worth remembering as we now get back into the cockpit of Flight 301 again. A few seconds into the takeoff roll, the first officer called out 80 knots, which, as I just explained, was the divider between the two takeoff phases. But this call is also a first cross-check of the two primary speed indicators. The idea is that this call should prompt the pilot flying to cross-check that their airspeed indicator is similar to what the pilot monitoring just called, and the call-out should be then checked if it is. But in this case, something strange was clearly going on, because the captain's airspeed had not started to move at all when the first officer made this call. The captain still responded checked, likely out of just pure habit, but he then immediately followed that up with, my airspeed isn't working. This was followed 2 seconds later by the first officer responding, yes, yours not working, and 120. Here the aircraft was obviously accelerating massively, so the captain would have needed to take a decision quickly. Was this unsafe or unable to fly? He asked, is yours working? And the first officer looked down and reported, yes sir, which was quickly followed by the captain saying, you tell me. So what had happened here was likely quite simple. Something had clearly blocked the captain's pitot tube, causing his speed indication to fail completely. If he would have taken the decision to reject immediately but noticed that, this would have just been another routine delay, which would have further annoyed the passengers, but you and I would have never heard of it. But since he was slightly indecisive here, he was quickly pushed further and further into a corner when he knew that a rejected takeoff would become a more and more risky maneuver. On top of that, he knew that the runway was wet, and also he knew that at the end of runway 08 there was just a lot of rocks before the ocean started. So for every passing second, he would have become less and less inclined to reject. That's likely why, as soon as the first officer responded that he had good airspeed indications, he just decided to keep going, and then followed the speed guidance of the first officer when he called V1 rotate, only about 2 seconds later. It's easy to sit here and judge this decision after the fact, but I completely understand why this happened. Anyway, the captain now rotated the aircraft normally, which meant that the 757 soon got airborne and started climbing swiftly into the dark night. 7 seconds into the flight, the captain called, positive climb, gear up, to which the first officer responded, positive climb, and then moved the gear selector up. The captain still didn't have any reliable speed indication at this point and was likely just climbing with an attitude that he was used to, slightly below 15 degrees knots up initially, which should soon start being decreased. But now, something else really strange started happening. Something that would ultimately bring this crew into much more trouble. You see, if the captain's airspeed indication would have just stayed at 0, this would have likely not been such a big problem. It would have been obvious what to do. Hand the controls over to the first officer at some point, but now it suddenly came alive and started increasing rapidly. So as the first officer suggested that they should engage LNAV, the captain agreed, but soon also called out, it began to operate, meaning that he now saw his airspeed indication increasing and thought that it was maybe functional again. But was it really airspeed that he was seeing here? Remember how the airspeed indicator works, how it uses the dynamic pressure hitting the probe to show the speed. The problem is that if the pitot probe is completely blocked, then the air trapped inside would soon start to expand due to lowering outside pressure as the aircraft climbs, effectively turning the airspeed indicator into an altimeter. And what happens with an altimeter when the aircraft climbs? Yeah, it starts going up. So as this aircraft now climbed higher and higher, so did the captain's airspeed. And for a short while, it would have probably coincided quite well with what the first officer was seeing on his side. This is why airspeed indication problems can be so insidious. They rarely behave the same way twice, and they can affect 1, 2, or all 3 airspeed indicators, making the identification very tricky to do. Back in 1996, this was not very well understood, and Virgin Air had only recently introduced descriptions in their manuals for how to deal with these type of problems, but it's unsure if those descriptions had found their way into their pilot training programs, especially in the external training centers that these pilots had been using. On top of this, there were no indications on the pilot's primary flight displays warning them of unreliable airspeed or airspeed disagree, nor were there any QRH checklists to follow. Those checklists obviously exist today, but they were created later, after this flight. So the only way to deal with this would have been to quickly cross-check the 3 airspeed indicators and then, based on that, decide which one, if any, they can trust. If this would have been done, the pilots would have quickly seen that the first officer's speed correlated well with the standby speed indicator, and the captain should have then just handed over the controls to the first officer, but that sadly didn't happen.
Do you need to learn about AI if you don't work in tech? Will it help you in your career? The short answer is yes. It's likely that whatever career you're in will benefit from AI tools. Try it yourself. A great place to begin is the Google AI Essentials course.
This is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too.
Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first.
Watch this. I can show you how to get the sweetest deals online when you shop from major retailers like Amazon and Target. You can drop prices automatically. I can show you how, but I can't do it for you. People are saving real money doing this. $160 million in the last year. Across thousands of different retailers, you'll immediately see this. See what I mean? You'll see better prices you had no idea existed. And you don't even have to ask. They just show up automatically. Download this free tool that'll give you access to the deals. Just click, click. Done. That's it. Simple. It takes all of 10 seconds, and there's no need to enter any personal information. There's no technical mumbo jumbo. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? It takes less than 30 seconds to start saving. And this is all 100% free.
Instead, things would now start to become even darker as more and more systems started to get involved. You see, the automation systems like the autopilot and the autothrottle rely on several different sources of information in order to do their work. And a very important one of those is the speed information, since it will tell the autopilot how much to pitch in order to maintain a specific airspeed. In most climb modes, the thrust will be set constantly to climb thrust, so the only way to regulate the speed is by pitching up more or less. That means, for example, if the speed keeps increasing, well, then the autopilot will interpret that as the aircraft having more available energy and will pitch up higher. And it will continue to do so until the speed has stabilized as selected by the pilots. Maybe you can start to see where the problem lies here. So the aircraft now continued to climb with the captain still in control. For the next minute, the cockpit work continued as normal, with the pilots turning off the windshield wipers, the captain asking for climb thrust to be set and for VNAV to be engaged so that the aircraft could start following the planned vertical profile. And in this case, VNAV used the captain's airspeed indication for its calculations. There doesn't seem to have been any particular problems identified during this first minute of flight, and the stress levels in the cockpit remain quite low. At around time 23:43 and 16 seconds, the first officer set the flaps up speed for the captain, meaning that they could now start to accelerate in order to retract the flaps. And apparently the captain saw a constant acceleration here because the flaps were retracted in a reasonably normal fashion. Once the flap retraction was completed, the captain asked for the after takeoff checklist and the first officer started going through it. No issues noted at all so far. The controller now came in and cleared the flight to climb and maintain flight level 280 and report point Hawkeye, which was quickly read back and set on the remote control panel by the first officer. As the aircraft climbed through 3,500 feet, the captain asked for the center autopilot to be engaged, which the first officer immediately complied with, and since the center autopilot also takes its information from the captain's instruments, this meant that from this point on in the flight, both the autothrottle and the autopilot were fully engaged and both were taking information from the captain's side. Next, both pilots set standard pressure, 1713 pascals on their altimeter, since they had just been cleared to climb to a flight level. But now, something else happened, which showed that things were maybe not as fine as they seemed.
Well, I went to college right out of high school, and I failed miserably. I decided to go back to school.
A master caution warning suddenly illuminated, accompanied by an oral chime and Mach airspeed trim and rudder ratio advisory messages appearing on the ACAS display. Now, the reason for these messages was that both the Mach airspeed trim, which automatically trims the horizontal stabilizer, and the rudder ratio, which limits movement of the rudder at certain speeds, require reliable airspeed to function properly. And since at this point there existed an increasing difference between the left and right air data computed output, these systems just warned that they couldn't do what they were supposed to do. But none of these failures specifically pointed the pilots towards an unreliable airspeed as the cause. The captain called out the indications when they appeared, but the first officer initially didn't have much to add to it, beyond just confirming them. The captain muttered that there's something wrong, there are some problems, while the first officer instead turned his attention to the navigation and pointed out that they should proceed direct to a point called Hawking, not giving the alerts much further attention. 20 seconds after the failure messages had appeared, the captain said, "There is something crazy, do you see it?" And the first officer responded, "There is something crazy there. Right now, mine is only 200 and decreasing, sir." It's likely that since the ACAS messages included Mach airspeed, this had brought the pilot's attention down to the indicated airspeeds, which on the captain's side was rising, causing the aircraft to pitch up more and more, but on the first officer's side was now decreasing rapidly. Like I said before, the faulty indications on the captain's side was now causing all of the automatics to try and reduce the speed by pitching up, but that just caused the air inside of the captain's blocked pitot tube to expand even faster, leading to an even higher indicated airspeed and even more pitch up. So whilst the real airspeed was now washing off quickly, this was not understood by the automation on board, nor by the crew. Now, it was at this point, when the first officer pointed out his falling airspeed and that the stress had not yet risen too much, that the crew had their first and maybe best chance to solve this problem. A quick use of a decision-making acronym like PIOSI would have led the crew to look at what their problem was, strange indications and different airspeeds, and then what information they had, ACAS info, higher pitch than normal, the fact that the first officer's airspeed had worked before during the takeoff and was now falling, as well as the fact that the speeds were the same on the first officer's and the standby instruments, but not on the captain's side. They could then have looked at what options they had, handing controls over to the pilot with the working airspeed, disconnecting the automatics and pitch down to a reasonable value, which would have been around 5 degrees pitch up, to just keep the aircraft safe, and then executing that decision rapidly to de-escalate the situation. After that, they would have been able to calmly evaluate if it had worked. PIOSI, in other words. But PIOSI is a decision-making concept that we teach during crew resource management training, something that these pilots had not yet been given. So instead, the confusion now continued to steadily get worse and worse. Instead of cross-checking the 3 airspeed indicators, the captain now just assumed that both his and the first officer's indications were wrong. He called out, "Both of them are wrong, what can we do?" As well as, "Let's check the circuit breakers," which the first officer agreed with. Now, checking circuit breakers is an age-old way of solving problems pilots just don't understand, and whilst it's certainly something to think of in case of completely lost indications or functions, it wouldn't solve the problem of incorrect or differing instrument readings. Only a few seconds later, the captain said something that could have also solved this entire ordeal. He pointed out that the alternate is correct, and this was then almost immediately followed by the first officer confirming that, yeah, it was. Now, if you find yourself in a situation like this, finding a working speed indication is absolutely crucial. So if the pilots both agree that the alternate speed indicator is showing the correct values here, that's what the captain should have relied on. But unfortunately, it seems like the overall feeling of confusion about the aircraft's behavior had now taken the upper hand. Because only 5 seconds after the pilots had confirmed that the standby airspeed was correct, the captain said, As the aircraft was not flying and on the ground, something happening is normal, such as elevator asymmetry and other things. This was a correct observation of the fact that the aircraft had been grounded for an extended amount of time, and it's not uncommon for things like switches to be left in wrong positions by maintenance personnel or even these type of issues to appear in those cases. But this reasoning didn't help him here, since it likely just made him continue to look for other causes of what they were experiencing, rather than just focusing on the one thing that was obvious: the speeds.
Hey guys, today's video is sponsored
Crazy,
by
man.
Voiceman. I had a lot of fun checking it out. I hope you guys have as much fun watching.
We know
And
he
you
was
sidetracked
this
like
because
that,
the very
not
next
pay
thing
attention
the
is
captain
really
said was,
funny.
"We don't believe them," likely referring to the ACAS warnings that they could be disregarded, and that shows that he maybe thought that this was just some kind of transient or faulty issue altogether. The time was now 23:45 and 28 seconds, and the aircraft had climbed to 6,688 feet. The indicated airspeed on the captain's side had by this point risen to 352 knots, and the aircraft was pitching up with 15.1 degrees. A combination which should be obviously impossible, especially with a heavy aircraft just after departure. But the maximum allowed indicated airspeed of the Boeing 757 is 350 knots, and since the captain's airspeed at this point indicated above that, the overspeed warning now suddenly also activated in the cockpit. This would have added significant stress to the situation, so the captain correctly said, "Okay, it's no matter," and then asked the pilot on the jump seat to pull the circuit breaker for that warning. Now I'm saying that this was correct here because the overspeed warning was obviously activated by the captain's incorrect speed indication, but unfortunately the fact that they disregarded this warning would soon also cause them to disregard another warning, one that was still very much valid.
So,
You see, as you remember, the speed indication had steadily been increasing on the captain's side, but it had also been decreasing on the first officers and on the standby ADI, and anyone who have been following this channel for a while knows what this means. The aircraft was now getting closer and closer to an aerodynamic stall. But the confusion in the cockpit was not getting any better. Soon the first officer called, "Now it's 350, yes?" Obviously reading the speed from the captain's side and not from his own, and this might have told the captain that maybe his speed was correct after all, because even though he had correctly called out the erroneous overspeed warning before, he now suddenly disconnected the auto throttle and pulled back the thrust levels. Most likely to try and reduce the speed that he was seeing in front of him. At this point, someone also disconnected VNAV and replaced it with the vertical speed mode, followed by the selection of a climb that forced the nose of the aircraft further up, first to 15 and then 18 degrees. This was literally the last thing that this aircraft needed, so about 20 seconds after the overspeed alarm had been silenced, 4 alert tones could suddenly be heard, followed by the activation of the stick shaker, telling the pilots that the aircraft was now getting close to a fully developed stall. It's important to understand here the difference between the overspeed and the stick shaker warnings, and that is that the stick shaker doesn't only take speed into account. It also receives input from something known as the alpha vanes, which are little wing-looking probes on each side of the aircraft. These vanes can feel the angle of the oncoming air, and together with the air data computers, they then calculate the aircraft's angle of attack, meaning the angle between the wing's chord line and the air rushing towards it. And it's actually that angle of attack, not the speed, that determines when a wing stalls, which is something that is wildly misunderstood. Anyway, the effect of this is that the stick shaker warning on the Boeing 757 is far more reliable than the overspeed warning is. And if these pilots would have fully appreciated that and reacted to it, they still would have had time to get out of this situation. The correct response to this warning, the approach to stall recovery technique, would have been for the pilot flying to disconnect the autopilot and auto throttle, smoothly applying forward pitch. If needed, roll in the shortest direction towards wings level, and then smoothly push the thrust levels forward, whilst making sure that the speed brakes were also fully retracted. But what now happened was instead something very, very different. The thrust levels were almost immediately pushed forward, but the autopilot remained engaged until just a few seconds later, when it disconnected automatically since it had reached its limit of operational authority. But the nose of the aircraft was never pushed forward. And since that wasn't happening, the aircraft now started to enter a full stall, with its wings rocking slowly from left to right, accompanied by an accelerating descent. As this was happening, there were a lot of signs that the pilots just couldn't wrap their heads around what they were seeing. The jump-seating pilots called out ADI, possibly to make the pilots focus on their attitude and pitch forward, but he wasn't more specific than that. The operating pilots were switching between exasperated calls and desperate suggestions of what to do, all whilst the aircraft kept ascending in a deeper and deeper stall, with the stick shaker continuously activated. Now, there was another way for the pilots to get somewhat of an indication of what their speed was, and that was the ground speed indication. Now, that was obviously sensitive to the wind, but would have given a general indication, and it was now indicating 140 knots, or about 60 knots lower than the safe speed for Boeing 757 in this clean configuration that they were now flying. But none of the pilots had any mental capacity to look at that. The panic had now thoroughly grabbed hold of them as they desperately tried to figure out why their aircraft wasn't responding to their inputs. They knew that there was something wrong with their airspeed, but just couldn't seem to figure out what that was. And that fact was further shown as the captain called out, "Disconnect the autopilot. Is the autopilot disconnected?" whilst he at the same time again closed the thrust levels.
Oh my gosh.
The first officer responded that the autopilot was indeed already disconnected, and this was followed by the captain pulling back on his yaw, with the thrust levels still completely closed. Both actions you would never do in a stall, and a clear sign of
it's stalling.
loss
Why
of
would you push
situational
that?
awareness. From this point onwards, the energy state of the aircraft just kept getting worse and worse, and with that, even higher confusion from the pilots. The pilot on the jump seat again now called out ADI, but without any more context, and the captain said, "Not climbing, what am I to do?" obviously not understanding that the aircraft was now fully stalled and basically falling. The first officer tried to help his struggling colleague with a suggestion, saying, "You should level off, altitude, okay? I'm selecting altitude hold, sir." Which the panic captain just agreed to, even though that selection would only tell the flight directors what to show, nothing else, since the autopilot wasn't engaged, and even if it would have been, it wouldn't have made any difference. But the first officer selected altitude hold and called out, "Okay, 5,000 feet," since that was the altitude that they were descending through at the time. But as he was doing that, the aircraft suddenly rolled over into a steep right bank, whilst the descent rate just increased even further. Somewhere around here, the captain must have understood that whatever was happening with his aircraft was not helped by the thrust levels being ignited. So he now called out, "Thrust levels, thrust, 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 thrust," and pushed the two thrust levels forward. The first officer responded, "Retard?" maybe as an indication of where the thrust levels were at that point, or as a question of if that was what the captain wanted. But the captain quickly called back, in a really panicked voice, "Thrust, don't pull back, don't pull back, don't pull back, don't pull back," to which the first officer responded, "Okay, they're open now." But it was too late. As the pilots continued shouting about the position of the thrust levels, the aircraft started rolling over into a left steep bank instead. And as it did so, the airflow into the left-hand engine likely got so disrupted by the unusual body angle that it developed something known as a compressor stall, which in short meant that it stopped producing thrust. And this was the final nail in the coffin. The almost fully stalled aircraft was now also subjected to asymmetric thrust in the form of full thrust from the right-hand side and close to no thrust from the left-hand side. And this, in combination with a rapid left roll and opposite aileron input from the captain, led to the aircraft entering into something known as a spin, where it continued rolling about 360 degrees around its roll axis, whilst also pitching down almost vertically. And this was all happening at around 3,500 feet of the black Atlantic Ocean. The pilot on the jump seat now pleaded, "Sir, pull up!" But this was only met by the two operating pilots shouting questions about what's happening. As the aircraft fell through around 2,000 feet, the ground proximity warning system activated with a futile
"Sink rate. Pull up!"
But this aircraft was now completely out of control. The final attitude recorded was a left bank of 34.6 degrees with a pitch down of 34.3 degrees and a terrifying vertical speed of negative 10,200 feet per minute.
Burnout. We all experience it at some point. It's so important to me that I've actually been working on it in therapy.
At time 23:47 and 26 seconds, Bergen Air Flight 301 impacted the ocean about 20 kilometers away from the coastline, instantly killing everyone on board. This happened only 5 minutes and 15 seconds after they had taken off. When air traffic control couldn't get in contact with the aircraft, they soon sounded the alarm and a massive search and rescue effort was initiated. Debris were soon found floating on the sea surface, which included coffee cans that had been flattened to the likeness of tinfoil by the massive impact forces. The rescue attempts were abandoned 2 days after the crash, and instead the hunt to try and locate the wreckage and the black boxes continued using special remote-controlled submersibles. And on the 28th of February, 22 days after the accident, the recorders were finally found at a depth of 7,200 feet, and when they were examined, they were found to both be in working condition, with only minor lapses recorded during the accident flight. The calibrated airspeed was found to be completely unreliable, specifically on the captain's side, in a manner consistent with how the reading would look if the captain's pitot tube had been completely blocked. But the actual pitot tubes were never recovered, so the cause of the blockage could never be 100% confirmed, even though the black and yellow mud dauber was strongly suspected to be the culprit. The final report, which was very limited by the way, found that the causes of the accident was the failure by the flight crew to recognize the activation of the stick shaker as an imminent warning of the entrance into an area being stalled, followed by a failure to execute the correct recovery procedures. The reasons behind the pilot's failure to regain their situational awareness was found to have been a combination of lacking training around unreliable airspeed scenarios, lack of procedural guidance, poor technical understanding of aircraft automation systems, airspeed indications and warning systems, as well as a lack of crew resource management. The fact that the pitot covers had not been installed after the maintenance procedure 2 days prior to the crash was also pointed to as a contributing cause, as well as the lack of clear, unreliable airspeed warnings in the cockpit. This accident became a real wake-up call for the industry, since it highlighted how very confusing unreliable airspeed events could really be. The investigation recommended that Boeing should install new warnings for the pilots, which ultimately led to the airspeed disagree warnings we now have, as well as new procedures and training scenarios for pilots. These new procedures included memory items, which had to be executed immediately if an unreliable airspeed was suspected, and they clarified the importance of cross-checking the 3 airspeed indicators in order to hand over controls to the pilot with the good indications. Since then, though, these procedures have changed again, and today the very first thing that pilots have to do if they suspect a problem with their airspeed is to disconnect the automatics and flight directors and then set the specific pitch and thrust setting, for example 4 degrees pitch up and 75% of thrust. By doing this, we know that the aircraft will keep flying, and definitely at all different altitudes, which then gives us time to properly troubleshoot the problem without the risk of losing control of the aircraft. But it would take another horrific accident for these new procedures to be implemented, and you can watch that story here. Now, I hope that I've earned a subscription from you, and if you want to see my next video ahead of everyone else, and even...
Sun is out, sun's out, buns out. Still cruising along at 350. Let's see what the real plane is doing. They are still at 350. They're up at 370 now. Let's get on, get on up there. Little 2-minute climb. I'm down by Florida. Let's take a look at the map and see where we're at. I mean, we're down by Florida too. Look at that. We're closer to West Palm, it looks like. And I'm closer to Orlando. See, they got a little jump on this. Look here and see 680, we got about an hour and a half. Not too bad. Hour and a half, we're down by Florida. Let me turn off some of these lights as well. Make it up to 370. Still nobody controlling anything out in these parts. Alright, so an hour and a half left. Just trying to see what else can I do. Charts. I know I did not get arrival charts together. So let's take a look at. Okay, they got 1 runway 29, 11. Arrival. I think I'm doing R9 29. The winds were showing as okay, they're now 170 at 4. Or our options. Yeah, landing with 1-1 would probably be better than 2-9. So let's come down in here. Arrival, ILS 1. Secret 2 Papa. Okay. Oops. Trying to figure out what the best fix would be. Delta. This one coming from the north. Delty here, Delty. Cool beans. Alright, so that's all sorted out. I'll brief a little bit closer. Let me take a look at the actual rifle. So Seeker 2 Bravo, Seeker ST510 license basically. It's all going to Delta. Yeah, so okay. There's a couple constraints in there. Yeah, we'll be fine. We got like about an hour from touchdown. Touchdown, top of descent. 305. Less than an hour. 45 minutes since descent. 45 from top of descent. Maybe about an hour and a half. Touchdown. Keep an eye on the real flight as well. See what altitude changes in the go. They're at 370 right now too, so. Fuel burn is actually gotten a little bit better. It's about 2,000 per now instead of 2,500. enough time to descend here. Parking at 8:37. About an hour and a half. What's crazy is the real world flight is closer. They're definitely gonna be there early. Alright, I'm gonna go run and grab a bite to eat really quick. We got 240 miles before we start descending, so I believe the constraint here. 370, okay, we're already at 370, so good. Yeah, breakfast. I'll be right back. I'll hand the controls over to Auto in the meantime. going back. Eat. Princess Landing. Whitney. I'm sitting here thinking. To have a 5:01 departure time, you would probably have to wake up at like at least 3. At least 3. And they did the flight down to... They're doing the flight down to Santiago now. After they land, they turn around and go back to JFK. How much downtime on the ground did they get? An hour. Holy. That's a full day of work for them. I mean, they're off. I'm going to ride back into the thing. It's been a bad day. But you're up at least 3. Very least, get to the airport, brief with the crew. And that means you're at the airplane by at least 4:30. If not sooner. Of course I do. Wait, no, I don't. 22:36. 25:36. Oh, you're back. I was eating, so... It says flight 22:36. There isn't 22:36. took a little break to eat. I did a 25, 36. I had waffles. I'm already done. That banner is not showing. Gosh. Hold on. The banner is not glitching out or turning itself off. Full send? What are we sending? Welcome to the stream, Kitty Ember. We're about, it says an hour. That might be accurate. An hour out from, Santiago. Figure out right now about the return leg. It said it's 3 hours and 57 minutes. That's 4 hours. Wait, I read that wrong. It's 3 hours and 46 minutes. So that's 4 hours. They're the same thing basically. That problem. Theoretically. Yeah, I mean, it was a long one, man. Definitely a long one. I look at, hold on, I'll pull up my schedule. That's what I have left on my schedule right now. I got Santiago to JFK, JFK to Nassau, Nassau to Boston, Boston to JFK, then JFK back down here. Oh. And then that's my week schedule done. I'm thinking I'll have all of this done by, what today is, today's Wednesday. I'll probably have all of this done by Friday or Saturday. Yeah, because it's 7 in the morning. People are asleep and or going to work. Over in Europe, y'all are like midday. You gotta let everybody wake up over here. I tell you, most people don't wake up at 5 o'clock like I woke up at 4:30 this morning. I guarantee majority of people were still asleep. Give it a couple hours, it'll start to balance out a little bit. There are a lot of people active over on the outside of the pond. That's crazy. It's saying 543 people are on vaccine right now. Yeah, man. Oh, we have Billy Towers up in Charlotte ground. You see controllers are starting to open up as well over here. It's just really... Like last night I flew into JFK from San Juan, and it was open the entire flight until right when I was about to enter the airspace. Closed down. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. They're using for departures right now. A380 comes tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, when I took off, I didn't even think he was going to stay up that long. So I'm like, he's already been on for X amount of time. Usually people stay on for about 2 or 3 hours. When they go beyond that, it's like, wow. He definitely was on for a while. I couldn't even be mad for long because he was on for a minute. On Lamer and Red Rock here, or Roderick. Red Rock or Roderick? Roderick. Never done is look at this landing calculator. I just look at the runway length, and then I have an idea. Yeah, I've never, ever procedure. Oh, something messed up. Yeah, I can. I'll probably do a flight. That might be fun. I'll probably do the return trip to JFK today, but I won't stream that. And after that, everything is like 3 hours. Holy. Maybe I'll take A380 from like JFK to Chicago O'Hare. That should be about 2 hours. and then we can get a feel for it. I'm reading this list here of all the things that it does not have currently. So no CPD-LC support. Approach limitations. A380X lacks support for GLS ground-based augmented system or FMS landing system approaches. What? That means like no RNAVs? But I can do an ILS. Pilots should not rely on board weather radar for flight planning. Okay, there's no weather radar, alright. Manual trim settings. No automatic takeoff trim setting. It must be manually set. Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. So it automatically sets the trim. That's nice. It's not an A320. Performance calculator. While 380 does not come with a built-in performance calculator, using SimBoost can yield reliable performance data. Approach guidance. LNAV is operational, but VNAV is not. What? I don't know, man. It doesn't sound like I would want to fly this yet. Not in a professional type capacity. It has no VNAV. That's the reason why I don't fly the E170. No VNAV. I didn't know there was such a lack of systems. I understand it's still in its alpha, but maybe I won't want to touch it until it's done. I'll probably look at it a little bit, fly it around, see what it feels like, but no VNAV is sad. One thing I haven't seen in a while either was Let's see. Crossing Lamer now. The real flight is by the Turks and Caicos. Shocking to me though is this 370. Flight plan is having me start descending at in about 45 miles. Ground speed is 442. There's nothing going on in the Dominican Republic. I don't even see any other airplanes out here. He said for the first time it's listening to me. That is crazy. Did it normally not listen to you? You haven't been able to complete one? Alright, how much longer to you land? I'm gonna land before you? What? How many miles? That's the best gauge. You look at how many miles you got left versus how fast you are going. So like in my case, I'm doing 430 knots on the ground and I have 341 miles to go. $400. It'll tell you, you know that, right? If you go computer, hit the flight plan button on the bottom, it says distance. Mine says 327 right there. That's your distance left on your actual flight path that you have programmed in the computer. If you want like a direct, you go to program and then hit the airport here in the to box, and it's 300 miles. So if I turn heading 199 and head there, in 300 miles I'll make it to the airport. 491. Okay. And you're doing 454, so you got about an hour and 20 minutes or so. You gotta take into consideration you'll start slowing down and all that good stuff. But it's just about time for us to go down. Yay. Oh, they're descending. They are descending. Let's see, I'm not using that landing calculator. I believe we should be using the ILS 11. That's a very shallow approach, okay? 2.8 degrees, alright, but I think I come here for Fort 2,500. Alright, we're heading down. 10,000 pounds of fuel left, too. Good deal. Right, there's the field on the PFND, I mean. C-car with the rider. C-car. Minimum 250 knots, 11,000 higher. What do we have in here? 13,493, so that should be fine. And let it do its thing. It's awfully slow. The other thing, I think, parking spots. Figure out where I'm gonna park. I think it was like a spot 7. Whoa. Hold on, let's go back and look. Let's go back and look because that looked completely different. Her spot. First spot. Bravo 1. Are we gonna make it to C-Car in time? This thing is... Sending it, we're doing like 700 or 800 feet per minute. How long we ain't gonna make that? Well, you know what? That's a 2500. So if we continue at this right here, we might be alright. I'm gonna let it slow spin. And if it doesn't plan out to be correct, I can always make some turns and adjustments. See people on board. Yeah, they're in there. Part of me is like, yeah, we're gonna land. We're gonna take a nap. But that hour is not enough time to take a nap. This descent is really concerning me. Man, 700 to 800 feet per minute. I don't think it's not gonna cut it. real flight is at 20,000. Nah, not 30 again. We're also headed, let's see. I guess I can. Oh, I haven't even passed the Turks and Caicos yet. I didn't realize it was so close. Yeah, I'm gonna trust it, and I'm gonna leave it. When we get a little bit closer, I'll make any corrections I need. 700 feet per minute is crazy. But they also stayed at altitude for way longer than I did. I'm coming to realize, so. Millennium Luke, thank you for the follow. Appreciate you. How you doing? Yes, sir. I like it all, man. Dragon Ball Z is awesome. Atro Benson's Discord. Oh, okay, gotcha. JFK to Santiago and not Santa Domingo. Jesus, I can't think of what it's called right now. Oh, top of my head. Dominican Republic. There we go. Golly. Yeah, it's been about 4 hours. Just about we're coming up on. Let me see, I started the stream. Yeah, I started the stream right before taxi, so all the preparation and stuff, it's been about 4 hours for me. And we're coming through 25,000 now. I'm trying to get down to 2,500, but we're gonna see what this plane is doing on its own. So I got 10,000 feet to lose in about 100 miles. Hey, yeah, you live in New York? I was born and raised in New York, Laurelton, Queens. I moved out to Ohio when I was 16. Definitely a Yankees fan. Although they're looking really questionable this year. So far, at least. You purposely crashed into your house. Sounds about right. Alright, I should be probably on approaching 10 minutes, so it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, man, they're selling games, man, but you know what? It is what it is. They had their run back when I was like a kid, where they were winning every year, it seemed like, so I'm not even upset. Not even upset. Let me see where the real world flight is right now. They should be damn near on the ground. They're over land, that's for sure, so. I don't even see land yet. Anybody see land out there? Was that lightning? Hold on. I knew I wasn't tripping. The second time I seen the flash, I'm like, what is that flash? I'm like, what is that? Definitely is lightning. Well, we're flying over it, so shouldn't be a problem for me. At first I thought it was like glare off the windshield or something. I'm like, what is that flash? Right, 21,000, okay. Let's see. A very slow descent. I do not like it. Pretty sure the real plane's on the ground by now. Oh no, they're still in the air. They're on final though. Says arriving in 4 minutes. could definitely expedite this just by a little bit. How much faster we can make it go. $340 indicated. Second plane back here. Another JetBlue from Boston. Alright. Still no land in sight. Thinking here, we're going to slow down for sure, 40 miles. That cloud coverage there is kind of obscuring my view. Here's transition altitude. Or is it? Hold on, let's see. This chart here will tell me 17,000, okay. Alright, transition altitude. Alright, we're gonna have to slow to 250 here in a second. I'm gonna continue to power through though. Try and save some time. Welcome back, buddy. We can brief, are we on the star yet? No, C cars when the star comes. Alright, so yeah, it's a very shallow descent. I've been descending like 700 to 800 feet per minute. It's very shallow. Alright, C car's our next fix. So here's C car on the chart. We need to be at 11,000 feet or higher and at minimum 250 knots. Okay, I thought I would say maximum. Minimum. Which is cool. And then from C car we go down to Sierra Tango 523. Which is max 250 knots now. Same altitude constraint 11,000 or higher. Then we come down to here. ST525, which is max 210, 10,000. But you know what? We might be able to break off before then, since the runway's like right there. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna break off. I'll be right about here. Haven't started descent, but I am in the Barcelona airspace. Copy. I'm cloud surfing. This is the best part. Downdrafts. Oh, let me slow it down. Let me slow it down. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Yeah, we was getting beat up by winds a while ago. Definitely getting beat up. I'm gonna hold 320 knots though. Let me pull the knob, if it'll let me pull the knob, if it'll let me pull the knob, if it'll let me, there you go, there we go. Alright. What's up? No. Getting beat up in the clouds. I just wonder, can I see land and then get out the clouds? Pyrenees, take a screenshot. Sir. I mean, you can. I just won't be able to get to it until after I park. Clouds is crazy. We're like 60 miles out though, which is good. Still no land in sight. Alright, let's start to slow it down. It's crazy that I still don't see land. did this real flight park at? How does this look like this? Okay, good. Yeah, that first parking spot is where we're going. So from the looks of the charts, that was spot Bravo 1, right? Alright, I think I see land. I think that is land out there, right? Gotta be. Is that a storm cloud under us? Let's get a weather update too. Winds 1206. Let's see, let me just enter it in this thing and be done with it. 120 at 6. 4,000 with a mist, broken at 1,400, scattered at 7,022. It's probably gonna rain. And altimeter 1015. Charts, what's the decision height for the ILS 11? 200. Alright. We should be down in the next 10 minutes. I don't know if, I mean, 250 knots is okay, but I don't know if it seems so slow because we're descending so slow. I don't know, it's weird. I feel like we've just been hanging out for the longest because it's getting to where we need to get to. Probably one of the longest descents I've ever seen. Close enough yet? Or did auto reset? No, it didn't. Okay. We got a 510, 511. Okay, yeah, I don't even know where this thing is taking me. So ST523. ST523. Let's put that there. Or we could do this. Perfect. 523. Perfect. Direct ST523. Why won't it let me? Oh, heading track first. It's tripping. Direct ST523. Direct ST523. Come on, airplane. Do what I need you to do. Alright. Let's put our lights on. Seatbelt signs on. that's where I'm supposed to be going. I don't know where all this other stuff is coming from. Clear that. Clear that. ST 525. Right. Clear that. And Doty. Sounds good. Clear that. Alright, so 523. 250, 11 plus. Plus. Alright, so we're not going to need 525 to Doty. So after 523, we just go straight to Doty. Yeah, that's right, because I said somewhere in between here. Alright. Let's clear Doty. Ergo. Oh, we need Doty though. What the freak? I'm so confused. Ergo, select. Undo. We don't need 525 though. That other thing moved. There we go. Now it all makes sense. Clear that, and it's perfect. Alright, thank you. Let's shallow this out here. Yeah, I was having a grand time trying to set that up, because what was on the charts is completely different from what the computer program. So I'm looking at the chart like, what you got me doing? It's like it almost had me going all the way out here to rides. And I didn't need to do that. But I got it together. Let's see if it gives us the option of there it is. I'm about to say, where's the airport at? Bravo. Shoot, what did we say it was Bravo 1? Oh, all the wrong charts. Bravo 1. Alright. Towers 118.3. I'll make a call when I'm established. Alright, ILS button. Alright, I think we're fully prepared. We just need to brief this approach. So we got the ILS localizer runway 11. Didn't mean to do that. Frequency is 109.3. Final approach course is 114. Intercept the glide slope at 2500 at Celix. which is 7.1 DME of Sierra Golf Oscar VOR. It is a 2.8 degree glide slope. It's a little shallower than normal. We have Pappies on the left, Malsers. Lights, we are Missed Approach climbed 6,000 on SGO VOR radio 117 to 12 DME SGO. Hold over M-bin and follow ATC instructions. Decision height 200. Alright. Simple enough. That cloud right there looks crazy. Alright, I think I got a second here to check out the screenshots. Okay, yeah, that's cool. One says couldn't download the image. I got one, but not the other. I'm coming through 6,400 for 2,500. So we're like 25 miles out or so. Oh, never mind. It says 19. Right, as I said, that cloud is like, I don't even know if I want to fly through it, but it is what it is. Cool beans. We're 10 miles from Silex. I'm gonna hit flaps for 1 on the turn. Localizer alive. What did it say visibility was again? 4,000. Okay. Go ahead and put it in approach mode. Slow down, airplane. Miles, 4,400. Nothing but glare in sight. Let me go ahead and start the APU as well, since it's a short taxi. Alright, there's flaps 2. Gear down. Re-on the spoilers. Full. Alright, so we're coming through 2,500 here in a few. We should be at Selex, which looks like we will be. It's 2,000 feet above the ground. I see nothing. I see nothing. Alright, so whatever this is, we need to break out at 200 at the very least and see some sort of lights or something. We're 5 miles. Can't even see the ground. It's crazy. Alright. Wait, I'm starting to see the ground now. Starting to see the ground now. What a downdraft that was. Oh my gosh. Alright. Let me make a call. 1,000. Santiago traffic, JetBlue 937, 3 mile final, runway 11. Santiago traffic. Right, there's the ground, but we are getting smacked by the wind. You're not supposed to go low. And it's not legal. Just looking at with the autopilot. Yeah, we getting assaulted by winds. Alright. We got to 200, so we're fine. We can see the ground. I'm assuming we'll see lights before
500.
I feel like we're probably about to enter some windshield because what this plane is doing ultimately right now is a little scary. Just because I can't see anything. It's 400.
Above.
What? No lights? There's lights. Oh my gosh, right down to minimums. That's crazy. Oh my god, but we're getting beat up. This might be a hard landing. We're a little high.
100. 50. 40.
See if I can save it.
30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Saved. First thrust set. That was right down to minimums. That's crazy. 80 knots. It says oh my gosh. I don't know, man. I don't make it. I just play the game. Santiago traffic, JetBlue 937 clear of runway 11, taxi to Bravo 1, Santiago traffic. Alright, so they should be waiting for me. Right here. This is Bravo 1. Although I don't... Oh, I didn't pick the... What the heck? I thought I did all this already. There they go. I mean, not in this airplane. I'm pretty good at it now. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm very good at it. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Oh, by a little bit. Brake set. Master's off. Lights off. Woo! Seatbelt signs off. Press D boarding.
Requested.
My pop-up passengers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Santiago. That was a crazy approach, I'm not even gonna lie. The winds and clouds was beating my ass towards the end there, but we fought it through, got down, landed safely. Now they're deboarding. I'm gonna do the return off stream. 17,000. Okay, okay. You coming down? Let me see. Is there anybody that I can? Nobody's on. Oh, Relics is on. We can probably give Relics a raid. Why not? Alright. Yeah, that should be cool. We're gonna go give my boy Relics a raid. Every now and then he's flying fighter jets and stuff in the sim, so go tell him hello for me. I gotta jump off here and make some runs, but I'll catch you guys on the next turn. Y'all have a good one. Peace.